What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3, part 3 of Road to World Record. This one is going to go over the first oceanic records I'd broken in a very long time, since like 2018, I think. This will be my first 21.6 mean of 3, and it'll also show the 20 OCR that was... There'll be 120 from this mean, and then at the end I'll show the 20 I got the competition after. So this will be another 4 solve video. Getting into it, the first solve will be the 23, which started off my 21.6 mean. This was quite a tough scramble, but the EO I went with ended up leading to a 9-move DR, which was quite nice. So on orange front we had 8 bad edges. The good edges were here, here, and the other 2 were here and here. So you can immediately make reduce to 4 bad by just doing an R or R prime, but the EO I did starts with a D2 and then an R turn. In this case I did R prime, and then you can swing these 2 edges in with either F U prime or U prime F. I did F and then U prime and then L, and this was my 5-move EO, and it instantly gives DR minus 4C4E on this axis, as well as this one here, and this one was quite a bit better since it was just 4 more moves to DR. You can just make this 1x3 with D2, and then this one with R2, and then it's just a simple F and then U. And this was a 9-move DR. It gave 4 quarter turn corners, and the subset was, I believe, 2C6E. Oh no, sorry, 2C4E, which isn't a bad one. It can be 7 moves without miss. But I didn't find anything on that side of the scramble, so I switched, and it looked like this on normal. To make a quarter turn of progress, I did first L2 and then B, and that gave 3 quarter turn 2C4E, and this case has a decent number of ways to finish in 6 or 7 moves, but the one I went with goes R2 and then B prime, and then you can just see that it's a very easy like 4C2E 2 quarter turn case. Just do that, and then F U2 F. And now to solve the green and blue sides to give a leave slice skeleton. It's a pretty simple block building finish. All you have to do is make a square starting with D2 like this, and then you make the next square by doing L2, and then it's just a few more moves, F2, and you sort of have like floppy reduction, U2, L2, and that gave me leave slice in 22. I then rewrote the moves and was not able to solve the slice in 0 moves. I had to add 1 move to give me a 23 as a final solution. The solution was optimal from the DR, and from all the other DRs I had in the attempt, there was one that can give a 22, but you need to do 5 quarter turns on a 3 quarter turn DR. That's the only way to do it. So I would say I did pretty much as well as I could on this scramble. So that does it for solve number 1. For solve number 2 in this mean, I got a 22. However, I missed a very easy to find 21 from the start that I had, which was kind of disappointing. And it was basically just due to a bit of a lack of knowledge, which I actually ended up implementing in my next official mean, which you'll see in the next video. So at least I learned from this mistake, but it definitely sucked missing it here. But regardless, still a decent solution. So for this scramble, I did the orange front axis once again. It was an 8 bad case, and this was 4 moves. You have the good edges 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. So you can just do D2 to sort of bring the good edges here, and then you can either do F or F prime, and then RL to give a 4-move EO. I did F prime in the solve and then RL, and since a 4-move EO that has like an HTR equal variation with a bunch of ways to modify it, or even extend it to 5 moves if you want, is quite good, I ended up switching, even though I don't believe there was any instant DR trigger. As you can see, like this is 5 corners, 4 edges, and this is 7 corners, 4 edges, so neither of those are like really DR triggers I try to solve directly. But when I switched, looking at it from this angle, I tried doing an F turn to give me something, and in this case it gives me DR minus 4C 4E. I actually did it as an F prime instead of an F to make an additional pair, like so. And then here to solve the case, I did B2, which sort of just makes the 1x3 like that. And then I made this 1x3 with an L2, and then it's just a simple D2, U prime, and in the solve I did B prime, and that gave me a 10 move DR, and this was 2 quarter turn 4C4E, which is quite good. It can be 4 moves without NIS. So from there I switched, and the HTR I went with went like U2, which accounts for like fake HTR parity. Like if you just try to solve this case instantly, you'll get fake HTR, so U2 accounts for that. Then L2, and then just the 4 move trigger, which has a variation. Probably also worth noting the L2 can be widened, but that didn't give me anything. But from here, it's just a simple D, L2, F2, and then U prime, which gives HTR. And then to give a leaf slice skeleton, it's pretty simple. We already have a pre-made square over here, and you can make another square out of these pieces, like so, the B2, and then it's just 4 more moves to leaf slice. Put the square over here, and we kind of have the same case from the previous solve, where you just put the pairs in, and then align it to get a leaf slice in 21 moves. There was no way to get a 21 from that skeleton, so I ended up with a 22. However, what I should have done, going back to normal but using the other variation of the EO, so not the one with F prime but the one with F, which as you can see is HTR equivalent. It's just 4 more moves to HTR, which I did see. What I failed to see was the finish from here. So here it's kind of the same case, except the fake HTR parity is already accounted for, so you can just do D prime, L2, F2, and then D, which gives HTR in 14 moves. And in the solve, I did see that it was like kind of close to a 2E skeleton. And one way you can find the solution is you essentially just like do the insertion after the R2. So like you see these 3 moves set it up. So by doing R2, you kind of have the 2 swap here, and you can sort of start doing the 2E from here. So you can do like R2, B2, U2, F2, and then at a certain point in the algorithm you can just kind of see the finish. In this case just like U2, B2, L2. And that could have given me either the 21 directly if I chose that HTR, or if I did like the initial like D prime as a U prime, I could have gotten 21 to slice, which was solvable in 0 moves. So that's the missed 21, and that's what I have to show for solve number 2. For solve number 3, I got a 20, which was tied OCR single, and as a result tied the OCR mean of 3. Originally I had a 21 on this solve, which I found semi-early, like 40 minutes in, and it was only in the last like 3 to 5 minutes that I actually found this 20. And the reason for that is I spent a lot of time on an HTR that was, not an HTR, a DR that was 2 moves shorter than the one I used, but had a much worse kind of HTR subset, which I think was a mistake that I would be less likely to make nowadays. On this solve, there is a missed 19 on the DR that I used in my final solution, and it's pretty findable. There's a few ways you can find it, but given the kind of stress of the situation, I don't really mind too much that I missed it. So anyway, this was a very good scramble. Just on the standard FB axis, we have 8 bad, and it's just a 2 move case. You just do F and B, and there's a lot of ways you can modify it by adding an additional move, like you can do R2FB, U2FB, etc, etc. And the thing that I was spending most of my attempt on was by just doing R2 before the FB. Because if you do it as FB prime, you get instant 4C4E with like a lot of blocks, as you can see on this angle. And it's just like 1 more move can insert in like a M2 to give a 2-1, and then either B2 or F2, and then L2U, and that just gives a 7 move DR with 4 quarter turn, 2 corner, 2 edge. which is one of the better 4/4 turn cases, but again, I didn't find much here. Aside from a 21, which wasn't even optimal from the DRs. There was a way to get the 20, but quite difficult to find. So that occupied a very large portion of my attempt. I'm not going to show the 21 I found because I didn't actually save it anywhere. But instead I'll show the DR that I did. So just on normal, I did F prime, B prime, and obviously that gives 4C, 4E as well because all those like move insertions are just HTR equal variations. But I did a D turn to give a different 4C, 4E in 3 moves, which is still really good. I then switched to inverse and it looked something like this. And it's just a simple, what is it, like 6 more moves to DR, which gave me the 9 move DR that I ended up using in the end. We already have this pre-made kind of block here. You can do R prime, U2 to sort of make this pair, and then bring this corner in with R, D2, and then you finish the DR with like an L prime and then a D turn like so. And this gave 1/4 turn subset because the corners are 1/4 turn and it's 4C, 4E, so it means you can actually do it in 1/4 turn. However, to get optimal, and actually to even, for me to get the 20, I had to do 3/4 turns. And the way I ended up doing that was I just solved the corners to HTR with an L prime, like so. And then I have like HTR minus 2E. And to get like the shortest HTRs, you can just kind of cancel into that by doing another L prime. But I inserted the D2 beforehand, and then did R prime like so. And then to finish, there's like a bunch of different ways you can do like this or this. The one that I ended up going with was B2, U2, B2. And then you can just do R prime like that. And as you can see, the finish is very easy. You don't even have to rewrite the slice. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And it seems I actually forgot to save notes on how to find the 19, so I will just cut here and then I will be back with the missed 19. Alright, I'm back, and this is the 19 that was possible. So this is the same kind of state as the beginning, so this is just after the DR portion on the inverse scramble. And the only difference is that instead of the D on normal, it shows a D prime on normal. There is a way to find this using this HTR by going back to normal, doing that D prime instead of D, and then L to give 2/4 turn 4C, 2E, and then 3 more moves to HTR. But I'm going to show you just kind of how close I could have been to finding this, and it's kind of just a direct finish. So you can do the same moves as before, so L prime, D2, and then R prime. However, what you can kind of see is that by doing that D prime instead of D, it's actually pretty easy to sort of see. We have kind of this like pseudo HTR type of case where we have like almost this floppy reduction, but it gives 2E, etc. So you can just very directly see, you can start doing that, and then you kind of have like this P-shaped case, which I know, and then do like R2, B2, R2, and then U2, B2, like that. And that would have given me a 19. So that in combination with the previous solve could have been enough to tie world record mean. But no harm, no foul, we got there in the end. Definitely did hurt a little bit at the time, because if I just had more time, or rather had I spent more time on that last one and not had a skill issue on the previous solve, I could have very comfortably done it. But that's it for the 21.6 mean 3. I will now show the 20 I got at the next competition, which was also OCR. To round out the video, here is the 20 I got at Melbourne Summer. And this was a really cool solution actually, because it was one of the first times I did direct 7C, 8E as a DR trigger without like thinking of it as like 4C, 4E and cancelling into it. Like I just saw the case kind of directly. This was a very bad scramble. I think this was the only 4-move EO, or maybe like one of the only ones. It's 6 bad on green front, and the bad edges are here, 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 and there's one in the back there. And there's only one way to do it in 4 moves. You just do B, D2, U, and then F or F prime. I did F prime. And you can see there's basically just like a bunch of blocks. Not sure how else to really put it. Just a ton of blocks. And what I saw was that you could do B2 to sort of set up this like anti-soon type pattern with these two blocks like so. It already kind of had that pattern, however I knew it wasn't going to work when both of these were kind of like fake bars. You need to have either like both true bars or one true bar and one fake bar, which is why the B2 was done. And then from here, the way you solve this case is you just do a D prime, and then you do L, and then that gives you two more moves to DR with U and then R, like so. From here, I switched to normal scramble, and to, first I guess I'll show the HTR case. It was 4 corners, 2 edges, 2 quarter turn, like the standard type, the one that's like 4 moves from solve 2 in this video. I did a quarter turn of progress by doing F2 and then D prime. And then from here to solve this case, you sort of cancel into the HTR minus 2E alg, so you do like L2, and again there's all those variations. There's like this one, you can like widen that turn, etc, etc. But the one I went with was B2, R2, B2, and then D. And then here, without even having to rewrite the slice, the finish is very simple. Just looking at the white and yellow layers, since those were my domino layers, you just do L2, B2, U2, F2, and that gives a 20. There is a way to get a 19 from the general start. However, it requires you to extend the DR by 1 move, which I did find, and also use 4 quarter turns instead of 2, which I did check, because I found that 20 very, very early into the attempt, like in the first 20 minutes, like extremely, extremely early. It's so rare that I have like any solution that early into the attempt, because usually the first 10 minutes of an attempt I'm not even like checking ears, I'm just writing them down to have like a list to work through. But this is what the 19 could look like. I believe this is the only way, or one of the only ways. It's the same EO as before, and then the same setups of like B2. And then instead of doing D prime, you kind of insert the E2. So the D U2, since the slice is all kind of symmetrical, and then you do RU L prime. And this was a DR that I did check. I didn't really find anything from it, but apparently there was a 9-move finish. The way you do it is you first backtrack from 2 quarter turn to 3 quarter turn 2CXE by doing like a B2 and then a U prime, and that gives kind of this case where you can insert either F2 or R2. And in this case, if you do F2 and then D, the solution is very easy to find, because you just do HTR like that, or I guess it would be like with wide moves to kind of account for the slice, or not the slice, but like the AUFs. And then it's just one more move to leave slice in 19, and there is a way to rewrite that such that it solves the slice in 0 moves. So that was another miss 19, but definitely a lot harder to find than the previous one I showed in this video. So I really don't feel that bad about missing it. I guess the only thing that makes it feel bad is the fact that I had 40 minutes to check a lot of obscure stuff, and it, you know, I just happened to not check it in those 40 minutes. But so be it. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.